Good morning. I just finished a 25-minute warm-up at the track today in the Brooks Glycerin, and now I'm going to do some 800-meter reps. And I brought to the track with me the Puma Deviate 83 and the ASICS Metaspeed Edge Paris. So I want to compare those two on some fast reps and see how they do. You can see how these two are actually about the same size, being those small light race day shoes. So I just finished 4 800-meter reps in the Edge Paris, and putting that shoe on after wearing the Glycerin, it reminded me of Fast and Furious when they hit the nitrous button in the car and you just take off. The speed I was able to get in those right off the bat was amazing. I was just flying around the track in the first 400, but then I also had made that mistake that they often make with the nitrous. I used it a little bit too soon, so I'm going home without Monica. I just I still did the first rep at I think right around 3 minutes for the 800. I'll get the full details on the run when I get home, but again, just a very light, fast, propulsive shoe, a stiff carbon plate. You can really feel this one mechanically assisting you, rolling forward, a strong toe off. And I just ran really briefly with both shoes on my feet, and immediately you feel how much softer the Puma is. The foam that's in that shoe is much softer and bouncier. So I'm interested to see how that affects things when I do these reps, the 800s in the Puma. So that was an interesting test today. And marathon training is hard. Did anybody know that this was difficult? They just want you to run all the time and just keep doing it for longer and farther and faster. I'm currently doing a Macmillan training plan that I'm not sponsored by. I just paid for that because nobody gives me anything really, except headphones. I do get headphones to review. But the Macmillan training plan, you basically give them your race date, the pace you're looking to run it, how many days a week you want to run, and it kind of calculates what you should be doing each week. And it's kind of slowly building up your mileage, throwing in some speed work. There's a lot of long runs where they'll put in some marathon pace in there. So I'm getting down kind of to the nitty gritty of this now, doing some 20-mile long runs coming up. And today was a Yasso 800 workout, where basically you're running a bunch of 800-meter reps faster than your goal marathon pace. So I had a 25-minute warm-up. I did the warm-up in the Glycerin 21, which that shoe is actually really growing on me. It's a comfortable shoe. It's not incredibly soft, but it just kind of rolls along nicely, and it's just a comfortable shoe to be in for those kind of easy miles. But once I took that off and put on this shoe, it just shot off like a rocket. Like the difference between those shoes is so obscene. It's just ridiculous. I put this on and just like, I don't even know how to describe it, how much faster this shoe feels. It's like I'm just floating over the ground and exploding down the track. Something that I'm really not that good at is knowing the distance between kilometers and miles. I really haven't done the math of that in my head too much. So initially my watch was showing me the speed I was going in kilometers per hour rather than miles per hour. So my first warm-up mile in the Brooks Glycerin, I think I actually did it in less than 7 minutes. So that wasn't really a warm-up mile. I was going a little bit faster than I should have been, but the shoe felt really good at that speed. But then I figured it out and was looking at the correct speeds and kind of slowed it down for the next 2 miles of the warm-up. But then once I put this shoe on, I was just flying. It's such a fast shoe. Really the biggest difference though between these two shoes is the way that they achieve speed. So this one, it's all about stiffness. This carbon plate is nearly impossible to bend. And this foam has some bounce to it, but it's really not that soft. It doesn't compress that much. So this shoe really kind of lands, absorbs a little bit, and then gets you right to that toe off in the plate and kind of propels you forward off that plate. So this has a much more aggressive toe off, but it's also a much more aggressive feel. So for me, this shoe is great for what I did today. Short reps, it's going to be faster than the Puma shoe, but for a longer race, it's less forgiving. There's really not a lot of give in this forefoot, especially since the carbon plate runs low on this one. This is the Edge Paris. The Sky Paris has the carbon plate up higher, so there's a little bit more foam under the plate. So this one to me just rolls forward very quickly and aggressively, but it's really not that soft, and it's also very narrow in the heel. So I find this to be a little bit unstable for me to wear for a marathon. Where the Puma does things differently, this new Nitro foam they have in here, the Nitro Elite foam, is incredibly soft. The plate is still stiff, but it's not as stiff. I can bend this shoe, but the forefoot softness is a really big difference. I can really feel the forefoot sinking in and giving me energy return in this shoe. So it's a lot more comfortable for a longer effort. And it's a little bit wider than this shoe. Now the shoes are both dyed orange from the track today. But a couple just comparisons off the bat. I'll show some statistics on my run today. So again, I had that too fast warm-up at a 6:54, then got back down to actual warm-up pace, 8:26, 8:41, and then I started the reps. And again, putting this one on was the nitrous boost right away. That was the fastest rep, where that first 400 I was like a man possessed, which was a mistake. But I was able to keep it pretty consistent after that. And I did the first 4 reps in this shoe and then switched to this one for the next 6. And it was a pretty consistent pace that I was holding during that. And then you can see the place where it dips underneath. At the end of each rep, I walked for about 100 meters and then jogged the next 300 to get back up to speed before taking off again. I was also able to keep my heart rate pretty reasonable for me. The average heart rate was 155, max heart rate was 189 beats per minute, but that's still below, my absolute top end heart rate. For me, over 180 is really kind of pushing it, and I didn't really get there except for that one rep towards the middle there. So I was kind of right in my tempo zone for most of the workout. Cadence, you can also see, was average 160 steps per minute, got up to 240 at the max. And again, you can see that big pop up right there when I first put this shoe on and just was running so fast going from the glycerin to this. So now I'll just kind of compare these shoes a little bit more with the statistics, how I feel about them. So weight-wise, they're nearly identical. This one is coming in at 7.71 ounces in a US 12, and this is 7.58. So very, very close. And they're both the 2 lightest shoes that I currently have. This one is 40 millimeters of stack in the heel and 32 in the forefoot for an 8 mil drop. This one is 39.5 and 34.5 for a 5 mil drop. So this one is a higher drop shoe. Fit-wise, they're both on the narrow side, but I do feel like the Puma gives me a little bit more room in the toe box. It's also a little bit longer. So I have a 12 in both of these shoes. I think this one's a little bit short, but I still fit. This one, a 12, is perfect for me. Also, some of the differences, I like the laces in both of these shoes. These ones kind of copy the Nike laces with those perforations on there. But the tongue, I feel like, is a disappointment in this shoe. It's just a really floppy, loose tongue. It's not gusseted, and there's no padding in it at all. So that just kind of sits in there, and you tie your laces over it. I think they were just trying to keep it light, and there wasn't really much thought put into the tongue, I don't think. Both of these shoes, though, are incredibly breathable. The mesh here is very thin and airy and incredibly light. This one has the rubber in the front here and then goes down to the side. There's another pad on the side here. So the outsole, though, on Puma shoes seems to be absolutely fantastic. This is that Puma grip outsole material. So outsole wise, I'm going to give it to the Puma for sure. The tongue on this shoe is also not gusseted, but there's 2 places where the laces run through it on both sides here, and this really, it's a larger tongue. It really does stay in place, and there's padding right here in the tongue where it says Deviate. There's a pad of padding right in the tongue to relieve that lace pressure. So I definitely like the upper of the Puma shoe better than the ASICS. There's a little bit more room in there. The tongue is better. This just kind of has traditional laces. They're not stretchy, so it just works. You get a good lockdown in this shoe. They both have kind of a floppy upper. There's no plastic in there, which I actually prefer, especially in race shoes. But the big difference really is just the feeling of this midsole. This is so much softer and bouncier. So again, this one's kind of giving you your speed by the bounce and rebound. And you can really feel it sinking in and giving you that energy return back. But then it's not as aggressive of a toe off as you get from this one. So to me, it's kind of like horses for courses, as Ed Bud likes to say, from across the pond. But this one really, if you're looking to run a 5K or 1 mile, I think this is going to be the faster shoe. But for me, over the course of a marathon, it's less forgiving. I like that this one has a little bit more room in the upper. I like that it's a softer shoe. It has more of kind of a pleasant ride where you get that bounce and roll. So I do feel like it's not as fast as this shoe because of that, but it also means it's going to be more compliant for me for a marathon. I'm really going to enjoy that squishing in the forefoot that this shoe gives me over the hardness and fast takeoff that this one does over that long of a race. Neither of these shoes is inexpensive. This one's $230. This one's $250. But from a value perspective, I prefer this one again, just because the outsole I think is going to last longer. It's a little bit more comfortable and it's a little bit less expensive. I also think I can use this effectively over more paces than the ASICS shoe. Again, I think this is going to be great for a 5K or a 10K. I might even take this up to a half marathon. If I was going for like a personal best in the half marathon, this is the shoe I would go for. I don't think it has enough cushioning for me to take it 26.2. That's where I'm gonna head towards this one. And if I wanted to just have a nice day running a half marathon and be more comfortable while doing it, this is gonna do that for me, since this one's a little bit more extreme, a little bit more narrow in the fit, a little bit less compliant in the ride. In summary, these are really two of the best race shoes that I've ever used. I'm really impressed with how technology continues to improve, and these shoes are able to have that 40 mil of stack in the heel and remain this light. So the combination of having a super lightweight shoe, a carbon plate in there for propulsion, and a foam that gives you a lot of energy return really makes these two of the best shoes that I've ever used for sure. And if I had to pick a winner between the two, it would really just be down to the use case. If I'm looking to run as fast as I can or a shorter distance, I'm going to go for this one. If I'm looking to run a marathon or a longer race, I'm going to go for this one. But overall, as far as value goes, this one being a little bit less expensive, and I think it's also going to last longer. It's a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more durable. I think actually in a head-to-head matchup, I would give it to this. If I had to run 1 mile to save my life or to escape from a Canadian geese or a charging dog, this would be the one I'd pick over the two. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.